Hey guys, what's up? Back here with another video. This video I'll be painting in this predator that I drew. Haven't drawn this guy in a long time. But in this video I'm going to be talking about how to learn pretty much. And this will be the last video about theory stuff, right? Where it's like things on how to learn, setting goals, stuff that's like not about technique, right? And the main reason I talk about this stuff is because I feel like when you're in the right mindset, when you're starting off, you'll save yourself a lot of time down the road. And so if I just start off with technique, like there's so many technique videos out there that if I make them, I'm not really going to guide you in the right direction. I feel like it's easier to guide somebody in the right direction when you give them like a roadmap kind of, right? And so in my opinion, you start off by learning how to learn, right? Knowing like what sources to trust, things like, what kind of goals you should set for yourself. So when you figure all that out, it makes it easier for yourself to get started, right? And to know what you got to do, right? And so the previous videos I made, if you already watched them, you know what I'm talking about. The first 3 lesson videos in the series, because the first one was about supplies and materials. Then, it was part 1, but then the other 3 lessons after that were pretty much about like goal setting and, how to start a piece of art and stuff like that. This one's just going to be about how to learn. And the main thing today that I'm really frustrated about is social media and the way it presents learning. Learning isn't entertainment. You see it a lot of the time on TikTok and Instagram and now YouTube Shorts and stuff like that. People expect to learn just by being on social media, and I'm talking about art here. So I mean, it probably relates to other things too. Like there's a lot of history pages about history on YouTube, and a lot of the time I'm a history major, so I know a lot of them like they try to be entertaining and they mask it as education, and you're really learning nothing from them. You're just it's kind of like dramatic stuff, right? Same thing with the art community I feel on YouTube. A lot of it is very repetitive, and it's just if you're aiming to get your education from social media, you're gonna be disappointed. It's not gonna end well because you're gonna waste a lot of time. Short form stuff is not gonna teach you. You have to sit down and you gotta study. So I'm gonna share some sources in this video. I'll try to link the websites below, if there's websites to whatever the resource I'm talking about. So the thing about short form though is that the reason why I don't think you'll learn effectively from it is because it's really there to capture your attention, right? And if you're a beginner, important things aren't going to capture your attention that easily, I feel. You're gonna be captured by the flashy stuff, right? If you're starting off, you better be learning the fundamentals, and there's nothing fun about the fundamentals really, right? They will allow you to have fun after you learn them. You're not gonna just get good at drawing without learning them, and they're all found in when you go to drawing classes or if you learn them from books, right? And you'll see a lot of old school books teach fundamentals really well. New books these days, I feel like they kind of just glance over them because they know people just want to, like, you could fool somebody into thinking they're learning by getting them to feel like they did a lot of work. Like you see it a lot in the fitness industry, right? You'll see people, they go to a gym for a private lesson or something, and you see the coach just overwork them, get them feeling tired. They think they did something right, but in reality, they didn't really learn much. They can't train themselves later on. True learning is when you're taught something, right? And you can continue to teach yourself using that, right? You can continue to grow using what you learned, right? It's not just learning is not babying, right? A lot of people think it's that, where you're just guided step by step through everything. True learning is when you learn something and it helps you learn more things, and so it just compounds and you get better at whatever you're doing. Man, the color isn't coming out it's coming out more orangey, so because of the yellow light, I think. Let me try to But yeah, you got to make sure you learn from the right sources and stuff. So in my opinion, I feel like you should not be getting your art education off of TikTok, Instagram, all that stuff. Yeah, it's fine for entertainment and to see new art that you'd like to emulate and stuff like that. But honestly, most of the time it's handpicked for you anyway. The algorithm just feeds you things, and so it's not there for growth, right? So in my opinion, what you got to do is try to find long form content. And long form content that is not entertainment, it's not dramatic, it gets straight to the point, and it's, it's for learning, right? So either find courses that you feel like you trust the source of, right? You trust whoever's making them. They're a good artist or they're a good production team or whatever, right? And they're actually teaching you information that you know isn't like a load of crap, right? So what you got to do is, yeah, just find those type of courses and things like that, or long form videos if you don't want to pay, right? Uh, Things like, I remember I used a thing called Schoolism, right? And they had really great lessons on there. I used it for a while. Uh, there was an Ian McCaig lesson. Ian McCaig is a really good. He's a great artist. He worked on things from like Star Wars to a lot of stuff like that, sci-fi and fantasy. And I learned a lot from some of his lessons that he had up on there, watercolor stuff and things like that. Uh, Also, on YouTube, there's a lot of great channels. Like, I mean, David Finch, when he does those live stream things with when he brings on other professional artists and they talk about art and stuff and they teach their techniques. That's amazing. I learned so much from that, and it's free, totally free. Um, Things like was it Proco, that channel, amazing stuff. Like, for real, it's all for free up there. And if you can just you know sit down and you could just listen and make sure you watch those videos in full, you learn so much. It's better than scrolling mindlessly on social media to try to learn. And also, emulating artists that you like. That's a tough one because it's very hard to know how to do that correctly because you don't want to end up copying, right? So what you're going to want to do is, say you've gotten good enough where you've mastered some of the fundamentals, right? So the first advice, like the first part when I'm saying like search up courses and stuff and get experience and just draw enough. You just got to draw enough in the beginning, right? And then you're eventually going to want to develop a style or something, right? And when you're going to want to develop a style, you look at artists that you like and you pretty much take the things that you like in their style and you discard the things that you don't like, right? Because you could do that. You have a choice when you're drawing stuff. And if you feel like you're not making choices, it means you're not ready to really develop a style, I feel yet. Some of the style is just brute force, kind of, if you think about it, because you're kind of trying to do something and it comes out a certain way. Sometimes it's just mistakes, and that's not really style. You're just not ready. And I feel like that. I feel like that in my artwork still. It's the way I draw hands sometimes, and the way I draw faces. Certain things I'm stuck in hair too, where it's my weaknesses. It's not really a style; it's just a weakness, and it might look unique or something, but you gotta like tune it to make sure that it's not realistic, but it looks accurate and things like that. Honestly, I should have recorded me drawing the thing and then voicing over it while it's in a faster speed or something. Because when I do this, I kind of get distracted by what I'm drawing. But yeah, so you get courses, art books, right? So you find artists that you like and their art books, and you just go through it and you try to like not copy their style, but you do studies of their work, right? And if you've watched some of my previous videos, I've talked about studies before. When you're doing studies, you're going to do studies about things you don't know how to draw. If you're studying things you already know how to draw, what's the point? You're just wasting your time. Always look for something new, something that's difficult for you to draw. If you're drawing stuff that's easy for you to draw, then you're not learning anything at all. So focus on things that are difficult to draw and do it a lot. What I do is I get art books, right? Or comic books or movies, right? And if it's a movie, I'll just pause it, of course. And on my computer, when I download art books or stuff, there's this tool called Snip Tool. Snip Tool is this thing. It's on every Windows computer where you could just kind of like snapshot stuff, right? And I'll just save that to a folder and I come back later and I draw whatever I copied for reference, right? and I'll just do studies of whatever I'm interested in visually, right? And keep drawing it over and over. And for example, I remember a while back there was a Capcom art book that I downloaded, and I remember I just went through it, and there was a lot of interesting poses. Of course, I'm not going to draw the whole book, right? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that whatever I'm copying is poses that are interesting, and I don't know, like I can't draw them from memory, or if I can, it's difficult, right? And so when I'm drawing them, like you're subconsciously kind of building this mental library, because most of drawing I feel is subconscious. It's all about intuition, knowing what to do, because there is no step-by-step process. It's like a macro step-by-step process. It's not something that's like it's not like a Lego manual, right? You're not building step by step. You're kind of just going, oh, what am I planning out, right? And when you're planning something out, you move on to like the next stage of the planning, and then you just block in the shapes, and then you block in details. But overall, when you're working, there's like little things that you're adjusting throughout the way. And so that's what drawing is about, and that's all built through subconscious practice. You can't just read a book on how to draw and you'll get good at it. You have to practice. That's why all the how to draw books got exercises in them, right? Yeah. And so think about the sketchbooks and stuff, and the references, right, from the art books. For art books, there's a thing called Comic Book Reader. So if you download comics on your computer, you could read them through Comic Book Reader. And I use SnipTool to just take snapshots of whatever interests me in those books, and I just copy them for reference. You just, things that you like, you just copy them as references, and you learn from them, study, right? And you got to make sure you do it often, because if you don't do it often, if you don't draw every day, you're not going to get good. It has to be enough. You have to be able to, you got to do it often. You cannot build something subconsciously if you're not doing it all the time. Alright, and in this video here, you see me drawing this guy. I'm not doing what I conventionally usually do, where I ink and then I paint over it. I'm starting to do this thing where I just paint with these concentrated watercolors, and then just go over it with ink. I'm going to use some acrylic too to solidify some of this stuff. Before I do that, I'm going to make sure to just get some really deep red in here. And for the eyes too. And this arm thing. Alright. And maybe like a hint of red here or something. I'll be honest, it's hard to color with the concentrated watercolors just because of how strong they are. Alright. Time to move on to acrylics. Actually, I want to get some deeper red in the background. Oh, that's too red. Whatever. So yeah. And here you see me doing practice too, right? Like every piece of work you do is practice. Don't forget that, because you're going to be trying out new things. You're going to be building in these patterns subconsciously, right? Of how to draw. You're going to be building your intuition, your instincts, right? This instinct that you have isn't just, you can't gain instinct without experience, right? And so when you're building this experience, you got to make sure that you don't build bad habits. And so you start off by good practice. And that's why it's important to have good teachers. And if you can't find good teachers, you got to make sure that you're learning from the right sources. And somehow, I remember the other video I was talking about, actually I might have scrapped that video, so I'll talk about it here. It's finding a good professional eye to look at your work. And so I recommend going to conventions if you want to get good, because you'll meet a lot of artists there. And if you talk to them, they could give you good advice. You know, most of them are nice. They won't bite, and they'll give you great advice if you just, if you're polite and you just go up to them and ask, right? They'll look at your work and they'll tell you like what you need to fix and stuff. Sometimes they're busy, so like they won't look at it, but those ones that do, they'll give you great advice. And that's the thing, you just gotta go and ask. You got nothing to lose, right? And so that's the thing. It's just you need a professional eye to look at your work. So we already have, you're gonna have the free sources that you have on the internet, right? Where you could just learn from them, but they don't give you that professional eye. Some do, like the paid programs and online classes. If you pay for those, some of them, they got somebody that will look at your work, right? Some artists do like courses. They're kind of like, it's not college, but it's kind of like it, where you're gonna have a teacher looking at your work. But in my opinion, I feel like if you could kind of get away with somebody not looking at your work, except for once in a while, if you start getting work. But to start getting work, you have to be good enough. And sometimes, depending on how professional or how big the project is, like some people don't care and they'll just like accept whatever kind of work, and you want to improve, like, but I think that's rare. You won't get hired if you suck. Like, that's impossible, you know? So yeah, just somehow try to work, right? Try, right? And if you can't do that, try to get a professional eye to look at your work. So either classes, right? Community, other artists, conventions, all that stuff, right? And so, yep, that conventions and stuff is honestly important, because I feel like those are like the industry guys, right? Like they're the industry standard. Like they know what like the industry is looking for and stuff like that. Sometimes it's even better than some professors if you go to art school or something. Cause sometimes I feel like with some art schools, right, is that it's about the tuition, right? With some of them, tuition is so high, right? And sometimes in some colleges, they just want everybody to join in. And so you're going to end up just, in with a bunch of people who are also paying for classes. And, like that's the thing about college. It's like everybody goes today, right? And sometimes I feel like you don't get the biggest bang for your buck, right? Almost done here. I'm gonna give this like a brown layer. And another thing about art school is that it is very competitive, right? But you do pay to get that environment, right? Where you get to try new things without like, it's like without embarrassment and stuff, right? I do recommend that, especially if the school has like a specific program for what you want to get good at, right? But you do have a chance working on your own, right? I know in another video I said it's like really important to go to a specific art school or academy or something. But looking at what I said, I still think that is like a case, right? Because of the connections, right? But I still feel you can make it on your own, right? You can't really say you can't, right? It's always better to be optimistic, right? But at the same time, you got to be realistic. And you know that's true because it rhymes. All right, time to move on to the acrylic. Can't tell if, sometimes I forget to clean this thing. But yeah, some of these acrylics look funny. I hope it's not mold. I really do. All right. So I'm going to start off just painting this in. I'm going to try like for a deeper red in some of the background. And I'm going to go over it with some green and stuff, just to imply like some stuff in the background. Oh yeah, moving on with the video. Sometimes I forget. I'm sorry about that. I'm not going to edit this video, so it's going to be a long video. But yeah, so professional eye to look at your work, right? Finding the right courses, finding the right books, copying from other artists. You're gonna have to do all that, right? You're gonna have to make sure that you build this habit of constant practice and constant assessment of your work, right? You're gonna have to dedicate enough time to drawing. You're gonna have to dedicate enough time to looking at other professional work. It's harder than it sounds, man. But the thing is, over time, it's gonna be fun because you're going to build this habit of spending your time wisely, and you're going to thank yourself later for doing that if you get somewhere with this. And if you do it for fun, that's amazing too, because at least you have a hobby now that you know something about, right? But yeah, the whole point of this is like, it's not just to make money, it's also because you like it, right? If you don't like it, why are you doing it? There's other ways to make money. But yeah, try to find like, in my opinion, the best way to learn is really copying. And if you do it enough, you're gonna build subconscious good habits when you're drawing your own things, right? For a moment, I almost forgot how to mix green. All right, blue and yellow. All right. Now I'm gonna try to get the shadows in first. So I'm gonna go for a purplish, cold, greenish brown. All right, that's a good color. I gotta remember, like the color, the shadows. I honestly don't know where they're coming from, so I'm gonna see what happens. I feel like the shadows will be, I mean, the light source will be somewhere here in the front, up here. So that's a good start. Honestly, when I start, I should plan out the shadows. I mean, where the light source is before starting. It's a good habit to have. All right. Now I need a color for that metal, and I would like a colder type of brown, maybe. And by colder, I just mean I add some blue to it. And there's that skull on it here, so I don't want to get rid of that, so I'm going to have to just add some cool shapes here, try to make everything look connected. All right. And this blaster up here, try to get darker and more defined the more closer to the top it gets. And then for these skulls over here, I'm going to add some parts of the shadows and things like that. Maybe even blocking some of the whole shapes. Yeah, I'm sure this paint is a bit moldy, and that's not a good thing. Should probably clean this. I'm probably gonna replace it, because sometimes I'll leave these pallets with the water in them, and that's not a good idea because they'll mold up. But and it's definitely not healthy. It is what it is. These paints are expensive, man. And I shouldn't be using more expensive paints for practice. All right, that's good so far for as colors go. Now let me try to get some shadows for the arms here. Probably gonna darken this blade up, right, and then I'm gonna add some white to it just to make it pop out. Now I'm gonna add some deeper green, more opaque looking green, with some blue to it, like a turquoise like reptile color, just to make his skin color pop up. Oh, I need some more yellow in that. And some yellow just to make it pop out. You know, I honestly forgot how green. Like, is he that green? I don't think he's that green. All right. I should concentrate less on the drawing and more on the advice. So we got up to something like copying other artists, right? So when it comes to that, you want to just copy the things you're unfamiliar with. I think I already went over that before, and you got to you got to explore new styles. You got to keep it fresh. Don't stay stagnant. Explore new things, and after you learn new things, go back to the old things that you learned already, and then you could go over them again and see if you see anything new, because you will. You're gonna have a new eye. You're gonna learn how to observe. At the end of the day, drawing is just observation, and if you're doing it enough, you're gonna get better at it. All right. Now, instead of gray, I'm gonna use a purple. See, that kind of looks gray, but it's really purple. All right, and I'm gonna use it for the helmet. And the reason why I went with a purple is, honestly, I forgot why, but it just works. There's somebody drilling something outside. So if you can't hear, sorry about that. All right. You know what's funny? I bought this paper because it said it's for wet media, and now it's just warping so hard. They lied. Alright, I'm gonna dry it up a bit. Oh crap. I'm gonna just swipe everything down. Gives like a cool little effect. Alright. I'm gonna ink it in. Yeah, that was definitely mold on the acrylic. Been breathing it in this whole time. It's not healthy at all. I'm gonna replace all of it and wash it with some bleach. Alright, let's see. I'm gonna go straight in with some ink. It's acrylic ink, so it's gonna blend in nicely with this. Yeah, boy. Alright. Let me try to increase the brightness and see what happens. You know, the thing is, this red is so deep, it's not even showing up on camera. I'm gonna try opening another light. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. I don't know. Close enough. Alright. Now, in terms of, you know, after you learn how to draw and after you learn how to color and stuff, you're gonna just need to start testing yourself often, because that's what separates, like, when you're at a level of a beginner to an intermediate to a working professional, right? Honestly, there are some working professionals and they can't color their own work, and that's totally fine, because if you're just aiming to draw only, that's cool. Like, you don't need to learn how to color and stuff. But if you want to get good at all of it, you're gonna have to test yourself often in all of it, right? You have to do pieces that require colors, inks, all of that, and, you know, assess yourself, right? You can't just because if you don't assess yourself, you're never gonna know how good you are. And if you don't know how good you are, you're not gonna know what to improve. You gotta, like, tell yourself, I don't know, and you only know you don't know if you're asked the question, right? And here, I would say I even learned something in this piece right now. That thing where I kind of just did the shadows before I did the highlights. In this piece, I kind of learned that, like, when you put down the shadows first, you could just paint around on the highlight. Like, you don't have to, like, add another color. It kind of gives, like, it's this cool effect. I don't know how to describe it. It's probably because I don't understand it that well right now. But yeah, here everything is going to start to stand out once I add all these inks in. Sometimes when I ink stuff in or color it in, some people like it looked better before you did whatever you did. But yeah, that's part of the practice process. But yeah, so far in this video, I think I've already, you know, said what I needed to say about learning how to learn. Learning is just really, it's a repetitive action, and it's something you just have to do often. I mean, practicing, right? And you're going to learn eventually, like, through action. If you don't, you're just, I don't know, you got to be doing something wrong. Like, there's no way you draw something 100 times and you don't learn something from it, right? Of course, you don't want to draw something 100 times, right? Because it's just a waste of time. But there are going to be times we're going to have to draw something over and over and over and over and over and over. So it's inevitable. It's going to happen, right? But that's just the way it is. Probably going to use color pencil to finish this piece. All right. Oh yeah, and before I end the video, actually, I'm probably not gonna end the video now. I want to finish this whole thing. When you're learning to draw, you are gonna get frustrated. You're gonna think you suck at drawing, and you're just not gonna want to continue. And I think that's normal for everybody that I talk to that's at a high level of drawing, and they do it as a job, right? I think everybody has expressed that they just feel unhappy with what they do, right? And just knowing that, it's like really not freeing, but it's just, you just understand you'll never think you're good enough, and it's fine, I guess, right? Just knowing that your work isn't like, nobody's satisfied with their work, so at least now you know that's a normal thing. It's a normal feeling to have sometimes. You're gonna feel like it's not good enough. And I think the number one way to just come to terms with that is to just have fun when you're drawing, right? And to draw often, and it has to feel like it's a language for you, right? Where it's like you kind of express things in your own way, right? Like the way I ink, I didn't really learn it from somebody, right? I just do it based on the way I feel, however it should be drawn, right? Whatever I'm drawing should be drawn, and based on the direction, based on the texture, based on all of that. And when you kind of just figure out your own way of doing things, it gets to this point where it's just like you're doing your own thing, man, you know? And it's gonna feel easier, and it's gonna feel more enjoyable. Because at the end of the day, you're really practicing to be able to say what you want to say, right? And for it to be understood. So if you could just do that, then you're already there. Hope that makes sense. Sometimes I feel I don't make sense in these videos. Kind of messed up on that hand, but I think I could fix it with some highlights. I'm gonna add some of these gray like wash to the background. It's gonna make the objects in it pop out a bit more. And I like whenever I'm drawing like a jungle scene, right? You have to add these like decayed looking vines that are just hanging from the trees, right? It gives like a nice feeling to the environment. Like it's like the rainforest has just taken over everything, right? And sometimes you got like a vine like that and stuff, right? And some vines hanging down. And the reason I'm not using a color right now is because I don't feel like it. I should be using colors. I should be using, because I've already colored the piece in, and just, you know, I usually don't use black when I'm coloring stuff in, or I'm going back for colors or stuff. because black starts to muddy things, right? I usually use like a purple or whatever the opposite of whatever color I'm doing, right? Alrighty. I'm gonna go in with the dip pen. Honestly, I should use a regular pen. I don't know, but the reason I'm gonna use the dip pen is because I want to get some textures in there. It might rip the paper. I have no idea. All right. Yeah, it's definitely gonna rip the paper. I'm gonna have to use the dip pen that's a little bit more rounded at the end. Where'd it go? Here it is. This one. Yep, it's a little better. Add some like scars to the helmet. Let me move it a bit more. Better. So far it's been 40 minutes. It's pretty fast for, well, usually I take longer when I'm coloring and stuff. But just because it's a sketch, it's more freeing, and so you could just kind of just do whatever, right? And when you add ink with the dip pen, it's going to be more concentrated, it feels like, the ink, because it's piled up on top of each other, right? And so when you add more ink on top of each other, it starts to blacken. And so there's more definition, right? See, so far the parts that are drying here, they're darker than any other part in the picture. Yeah, that was um I should definitely clean these acrylic sponges more. I usually put copper on the bottom, so like pennies or you know, some kind of metal, because it stops the bacteria in them. Because anytime you leave water, right, anywhere, unattended, still just not moving, with no like chemicals in it, it will build mold and bacteria, and that's not good, right? And so you have to find a way to just keep it clean. So the way I do that is I leave pennies inside, or I spray the sponges with alcohol when there's no paint on it, and then I'll just leave it there and I'll wash it out later. Or sometimes bleach. You gotta be careful with bleach. You can gas yourself by accident and pass out, so that's not good. Don't do that. You always gotta be careful with chemicals. Never do anything dangerous or that you don't know what it will lead to. Like, you know, certain fixatives, whenever you're done painting, like, you gotta be careful with them, because they can actually you know, harm you. Sometimes if you flip around the nib pen like this, you can get a way finer line. But I don't want to do that right now. I'd rather just, I'll finish it with colored pencil. Maybe some white acrylic, I don't know. Alright. Honestly, I really hate how colors come out on camera sometimes. It doesn't do it justice, man. Like sometimes I imagine how good artwork is when I see it digitally. Like a picture of it, right? Compared to what it looked like in person. Right? Like sometimes I remember going to a comic convention once, just checking out all the art and stuff, and just seeing how clean it looks in person, right? Like the physical copies compared to how it looks like on paper. No, no, like print media or digital. It just looks so different. You know what? I'm just gonna use acrylic for the white. For the parts that would probably be shiny. This is very rough. I probably would not go about this way. Go about it this way, if it was like for work or something. It's very sloppy. Since the paper is still wet when I lay down the white here, it might create like a weird effect where it fades a little bit, and that's okay. I want to mix some yellow with some white just to get a nice highlight color. I'm going to warm it up with a bit of red. So let me just show it here. So here I took yellow and white and I mixed it with some red, and it gives this like orangey looking pinkish color, and that mixed with some white will be a nice highlight because it's on green skin. Alright, let's test it out. Hope it works. Yeah, it's decent. And I know the Predator has like this like scaly type skin texture, and so just being messy with it will help a little bit. I like how that turned out. That looks nice. Honestly, I'm probably going to use some whiteout, maybe, I don't know, to get some of the highlights in, just because it's fast. But sometimes whiteout gives this messy yellow feeling. I don't like it at all. Now for the laser, I'm gonna go a pure. I'm just gonna go straight white right now, cause I need something that will stand out. So I'm gonna use it for the 3 dots here. And then around it, I'm gonna go some kind of pink. I don't know, that's not turning out too well. You know what? I'm gonna put like a hazy kind of red to it and see what happens. Now I'll put the white in there and see what happens. That's a little bit better. And then I'll go back later and improve on it. Same thing for the eyes. I forgot if his eyes were red or green. So I'm gonna just go with this white here that I'm using with the red to give it a pink. Alright. I'll erase this again. Kinda like how that turned out. I'm gonna use let's see, the whiteout pen. The Presto Pentel. These ones. See what happens. That looks nice. Okay. Maybe I'm gonna add like effect like that. Okay. And add some highlights to the side here. And add some of these like highlights to the scales. See what happens. Well, he is like in water right now, so I'm gonna see what happens there. I don't like how that one turned out, damn it. I think that's enough. Let's see. think I have a lighter green, and that should give it some what's the right word? Some pop. Honestly, I'm not sure what I'm doing. This is one of those times where I feel completely lost. But it's a good thing it's practice. See, that's what I'm talking about. You get to test new things. But see, that's why like school's important too, where it's like you could be doing this and a teacher gives you good advice about maybe a different way of doing something or something like that. Now for the water. Let me zoom out. And I want to kind of do a reflective property here. So I'm going to like, wherever there's green up here, I'm going to kind of do it as if it's a reflection. I don't know how to explain it. So with water, it's like there's like a complete flip, and you're going to see whatever color's up here in the water. And then sometimes you could even, let's take this brown here and just, as a shadow. I'm going to put in some shadows with purple. Purple always gives a nice pop sometimes. More like a pinkish kind of purplish color. Maybe some kind of like a mid shadow for areas that I just want to blend in into the background. Not background, but to make sure that the parts like his arm pop forward. So I'm going to give like a nice cold color to like parts that I want to recede backwards a bit. Add some more highlights. Maybe some details on this arm. Maybe a band-aid or something. Alright. Maybe some highlights up here. This part here should be highlighted more. Let's put like some teeth on a necklace or something. Extra ones. Give some highlights to the hand. Alright, now I'll give those highlights here. Sometimes I want like a faded highlight like that. And then you put like reflection in it. Let's try it over here. It just makes it look like there's metal or something. I'm doing a bit wrong here because I'm not used to using these Pentel Presto ones. I'm going to do it up here also, like a part where I feel like there should be a lot of highlights. And then I'm going to go in hard here with the highlight. I'm going to go back in with some color pencil, try to fix some of this up. I'm going to use the purple one. Now he looks like he has purple eyebrows, damn it. I'm going to use that purplish looking pink one. Kind of go around the eyes. Now I'm going to go here around the white, and so it makes it look like there's like a fade, so the eyes are illuminated. But now it looks like they're all blending together. So I'm going to do close up a bit more. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with some white acrylic and see what happens. I'm going to need, I don't want to use the Presto, I want to use something that's brighter. Alright. This here is brighter white. I hope it sticks over the color pencil, because it's a bit more delicate of a medium, these opaque super white ones.